It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the Insiders, and this week we're going to talk about the strange case of Representative Ortiz-Velez. Chuck, please tell us what's going on.
Well, this was a very unusual case with a representative who had first alienated everybody else in the Hispanic caucus on the Democratic side. And then there was some talk that she's threatening violence against other members of the Democratic caucus. This is a person who was kicked out of the caucus. This is really weird. You know what? Democrats are very lucky here. They're lucky that they did not get through the next election before this representative went off the deep end. The reality is here that they will now have an opportunity, and the people in her district will have an opportunity to be able to say, this is not the kind of leadership that we want. This is not the kind of representative that we want. This person, if she runs, will be primaried and defeated, because nobody wants someone threatening violence in today's date and time. Now, at the end of the day, the reason that I say it's good to learn this now is there's a good chance that the Democrats could have a 1-vote majority in the next after the next election. If that's true, and you have this representative, you would actually absolutely not be able to govern. Now, we will see just how far partisanship has gone next year. Will the Republicans actually go out through some, secretive independent expenditure and try and keep this person in? I don't think that'll work, but will they be, or have we sunk that low? I hope not. And I wouldn't say I expect that they'll do that, so I hope not. But clearly this is something that is weird. It's unexpected, but Democrats are fortunate that they can clean house here and say, we need someone who's serious being in the legislature. And I think it's time for that person to think about what their next step is in their life after they end their representation of their district next year.
One of the things I've seen a lot in the last few years in working around the country in various different states is the number of times the Democrats have purged a member from their caucus for being insufficiently in line with the team agenda. You have to be apparently 100% on board the team. You can't tell people, I have a disagreement with you about this issue or about that issue. And it doesn't matter if they're a Hispanic member or a Black member. Diversity of thought is not allowed. They want a diverse caucus. They just don't want any diversity of thought. And these people are getting pushed out. And in each case, whether I've seen this in Georgia, I saw it in North Carolina, I've seen it in other states as well. And in each case, what happens is the member says, I was listening to my constituents on this issue, and you're telling me that at the Capitol, I got to be 100% in line with the rest of the caucus. I think we're starting to see this stuff all over the country, just a little bit. And it's also why I think you're beginning to see small but steady growth in the number of Republicans, a number of Hispanics and African Americans who are voting independent or voting for Republicans. And this everyone must follow the AOC line or whatever line people are using, is changing the Democratic Party around the country. You have to be 100% progressive or you can't be a part of the team. And Sylvia has been wrong for the Democratic caucus on other issues in the past. And apparently it reached the boiling point and they decided to kick her out. I thought it was interesting that the response from both sides, the Democrats said, let us pick somebody new for all of her committee posts. And Speaker Voss was like, well, you can put somebody new on the committee, but I'm not taking her off her committee's assignments. You put her there in the first place. So I thought the Republicans were pretty gracious and generous. You speculated about whether or not the Republicans might try to influence a Democratic primary. I believe that has been the Democratic strategy in race after race around the country for jobs like the United States Senate, where they have gone in and spent dark money to help elect the wrong Republican in those primaries. So interesting that you're now concerned about that possibility happening here. I do not think the Republicans, when their margin is up for grabs, when it's going to be a really close election, will be investing any money in Democratic primaries this year. I think they're going to be focused on electing a majority in both houses of the legislature. But we'll see. This is again, it's a trend. You see it around the country. You got to be 100% on the progressive agenda or you're out.
I don't think that's what this is about. I think this is different because, and maybe I could be getting this wrong, but there were reports of some threats of violence. Not that they were going to be acted on, but I think that whenever the discussion gets to that level, we all need to take a step back. And this is a good example. And I think this is why when someone is volatile enough that they will get to that category, that it is time to move in a different direction. I think that we've all seen events over the last year, whether it's Minnesota Speaker or Charlie Kirk, where violence has really harmed our process in the system. Charlie Kirk doesn't deserve that. The speaker and former speaker in Minnesota didn't deserve that. And any time we get anywhere close to that, I think we should all stand up and say, no, this is not the right. There are other people who can have the same views, but no one who wants to engage in talking even about that they're thinking about violence. And maybe I'm reading the press reports wrong. Maybe the press reports are incorrect, but that's the kind of thing where I think you've got, I mean, I would say that the Democrats have quite a range of people because I talk to a lot of them, and there is not a litmus test that they have to have. But I do think that when you get off on the issue of violence, that's a point where I think then and this is why I'm willing to say that I think this person should not be in office. And I think why most people, Democrat or Republican, would say this is not the kind of discussion that we think is appropriate for the state legislature.
But my understanding is the Capitol Police investigated and interviewed people and didn't find there to be a credible threat that was made. So again, I'll agree with you on that. I get to work with legislators all over the country, and I think everyone is nervous about the present climate and the possibility of harm to them or their family. And we're all on the same team with regards to that. All right.
It's a tough issue and it's a tough situation, but hopefully it gets resolved in a positive way. It's the end of the line. So we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
You've been listening to The Insider with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.